Thanks for joining us this Sunday live at 11. I'm Paulina Butska. For several weeks, we have been diving deep into the history of the atomic bomb. This comes on the heels of the release of Oppenheimer, which renewed the interest in the atomic bomb, but also has ties to Las Vegas and Nevada. Tonight, we're talking about the decades-long testing done here in Las Vegas that left a lasting impact locally and nationwide. Specifically, the impact of the nuclear debris on people who didn't know the lasting impacts it would have on them at the time. Those people are called downwinders. Director Mark Shapiro made Las Vegas and the former Nevada test site the backdrop for his new independent documentary, Downwind. In an exclusive sit down in an interview with director, we talk about the inspiration for his documentary.
We fell in love with the people in Las Vegas. Over the last 3 years, I've probably been there, 15 or 20 times. I've been there so much, and I've gotten to know people. There's something about when you get to meet the people in that city. It's a remarkable place.
That's the same sentiment I have for Vegas. It's just, this place has, it's been home. Las Vegas, home to roughly 650,000 Nevadans who share the glitz, glam, and bright lights of their city with over 35 million tourists a year, most of whom will never venture off the Strip.
The first time I'd been there without leaving the Strip, and it was like, there is a real community here.
Mark Shapiro was once that tourist. Until inspiration came in an unlikely form. Downwinders isn't just like a term that people throw around. How did you first become familiar with downwinders?
It was interesting. I was actually doing some research on hiking and things like that in St. George, Utah, of all things. I was reading about the city, and then I read about this place called Snow Canyon where they shot a lot of movies. There was a John Wayne film called The Conqueror that was shot in St. George. We dug deeper, and I found an article from 1980 in People magazine online. Did America Kill John Wayne? An incredible statistic that I read about the film is nearly half of the cast and crew on The Conqueror apparently died of cancer, likely connected to radiation, some fallout that had happened about 135 miles from St. George at the Nevada test site.
Step back with me into the 1950s.
3, 2, 1.
Vegas as a city was sort of an entry point, a frontier point where folks arrived who were doing the testing, including some of the troops.
A booming time for Las Vegas, literally and figuratively.
The United States bombed Nevada with nuclear weapons more than 120 times before testing was moved underground in the early 1960s.
What's interesting about Mercury in Vegas is during the time of testing, there were parties. People would go on the top of the rooftops of casinos and watch the bombs. Often they happened really, really early in the morning, and they would have cocktail parties, beauty contests where they had, Miss Atomic Bomb.
In a city that coined the term, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, that was not accurate for atomic bomb testing. In fact, the infamous mushroom clouds would go up and eventually come down.
The U.S. mainland was exposed to radiation.
So in this country, they tried to get the meteorology right. They tried to avoid Vegas. They tried to avoid Los Angeles. It didn't always work.
Due to a change in wind direction, the residue from this morning's atomic detonation is drifting in the direction of St. George.
But what it meant was when they got the meteorology just like they wanted it and put the test off, that places like St. George, Utah got inundated with radioactive fallout.
There is no danger. Parents need not be alarmed about children at school.
But truth be told, it went all over the country.
People have to remember that even if you weren't there to breathe in the radioactive fallout, it rained, and of course the fallout fell to the ground, got into the grass, the cows eat the grass, the kids are drinking the milk.
Kirk Gladwin has been fighting for downwinders since the 90s. The former Las Vegas resident started his work here, locally, before moving to Montana. where he's continued his fight for RECA expansion and compensation for downwinders. The Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, also known as RECA, grants a one-time payment of $50,000 to affected downwinders, but it's limited only to parts of Nevada, Arizona, and Utah.
There is no question anymore. We know how much fallout there was. And so now it's just a question of people getting on board, it becoming an important issue.
It's a complicated issue because I don't know how it could have been handled better. Yes, more people should qualify. No one in our film qualified for RECA funding. No one that we interviewed qualified for RECA funding because they lived outside of the counties that were covered. No one in Las Vegas would be covered.
The issue's so important to Kirk, he connected me with Mark Shapiro,
Can you see me okay?
who, after driving for over 12 hours to Reno for his documentary debut,
I feel so bad. It's really good to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks for sticking with me on this crazy car drive. It was just a long day.
met with me on Zoom at 10 p.m. He explained to me what drove him to invest all his money into creating Downwind, a labor of love, featuring Las Vegas local Ian Zabardi, a downwinder himself, and downwinders from neighboring states.
There is no amount of money that can replace losing a 6-year-old daughter or a sister or a mom or, parents, family members and neighbors. That all of the downwinders in our film, they talk about that. They're people that were impacted by these detonations, and yet they're inspirational. They're going around the world telling people about, the danger of this, because none of us were taught this in history.
Giving a voice to those who have gone voiceless for far too long.
They appreciate what we're doing, telling this truth, telling the story about something so close to Las Vegas, and it's a real Las Vegas story.
Well, you can pre-order the documentary Downwind on iTunes ahead of the release date on August 18th. For more information on this movie and Las Vegas history, head over to our website, ktnv.com/fallout. Erica?
Good evening.